delayed sword is a defense against a right-handed lapel grab. It gets its name from the chop or the hand sword that we're going to use to the opponent's neck. And you'll also see there's a slight pause or delay, hence the name delayed sword. Let's take a look. So what happened there? Well, the first thing I want to do is step back. I need to get away from this guy. I'm afraid of his punch. I'm afraid of a potential kick or a throw. So distance or depth is what I need. So I do that by stepping back with my left into a right neutral bow. Notice it almost causes him to step there. At the same time, I'm going to deliver a right hammering inward block, striking the radial nerve. Notice my left hand is checking. Immediately I'm going to draw my foot into a cat stance, chamber and kick to the groin. That doubles him over, pretty much ending the fight. But I have one more follow-up strike. I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I have this leg still in the air. And as I plant it down with all of my body weight, I'm going to chop to the opponent's neck or jaw.
Future Geoff here. Once you're comfortable with this technique, I want you to gloss over the cat stance. So you'll go from a neutral bow directly to a front kick. Now if we see that all in one motion, you have block, kick, chop. This is in contrast to giving the cat stance a full beat in time, which would look like this. As you can see, it's unnecessarily long to wait that long in the cat stance. Even when we gloss over it though, you'll see it's still there. If we slow it down, we have block, and as I go to kick, there's my cat stance. So it's not that we're removing it, we're simply connecting the dots.
It's like the hand sword. If I bring my fingers together and tuck my thumb, my hand is in this fashion, and I can strike with the meaty part of my hand, the infamous karate chop. Right? You can do that from a variety of different angles, but that's what we're striking with. Don't hit with the pinky, don't hit with the wrist. Both of those will hurt a lot. Hit with the meaty part of your palm. If you were to make a fist, you could also strike this way. We'll call that a hammer fist. So you could strike the opponent this way with the base of your fist. If you open your hand, it's the same idea, but we call it a chop. So be certain you're comfortable with forming a chop and forming a hammer fist. Now, so those are some other. Hopefully the next question that's on your mind is, what part of your foot, what part of my foot am I striking with? Well, let me do this from a side view. I can bring this foot up to chamber and I can extend this way. Notice that my toes are up, they're not pointed. You could point the foot entirely and strike with the tongue of your shoe or the shoelaces up into the opponent's groin this way. The other approach is to kick forward, striking with the ball of your foot into the opponent's groin or bladder or solar plexus. Notice it's not flat-footed. The foot is completely down and the toes are up. It's like you're revving the gas on your car. If we look at the zones of protection, we have depth and height. I'm stepping away and I kick, which bends him over. That's what's keeping me safe. It's harder for him to hurt me now because I've used those two things. In both the block and the chop, we're using the principle marriage of gravity. When he grabs me, I don't do this. Probably not going to work if he's got any strength to him, which he does. He's strong, right? So what I need to do is use my whole body and settle with that to knock that arm off of my lapel. The kick to the groin, and now again, I'm not just going to put my foot down and then try to hit him with using my tricep, but I'm going to plant my whole body into that strike. So that principle of solidifying is called marriage of gravity. There is one other thing I want you to notice in this technique, an idea called borrowed reach. I'm actually bringing him closer. If I subtract the kick, if I remove the kick, and I go block, but he doesn't move too much, it's going to be hard for me to chop him, maybe with my fingertips. Maybe if I lean, I can pull that still pull off the strike. But notice what happens. When I kick him, yes, I've affected his height. I've bent him over, but I've brought him closer to me, which is good. So now that I can strike him more easily and with more power. So there you have it for delayed sword. I want you to consider delayed sword not only as a defense against a grab or a potential push, but also as defense against a punch. It really serves as a representative for many different families of defenses. And I want you to practice it both as with your opponent in a stance and with yourself in a stance. So let's take a look here. Let's have the opponent in a left neutral bow. And let's assume just by chance, just because that's the way you happen to be standing, I'm going to play your role. You're in a right neutral bow. And we're going to have the opponent stepping in with a right-handed strike. Could be a heel palm, could be a punch. He steps in with a strike towards your face. Boom, like that. Well, there are two ways I want you to get around a punch, no matter how you happen to be standing. On the inside and on the outside. Whatever you do, don't get hit. You could go over, I suppose you could do a front flip over the top of your opponent if you're so agile, or you could try to duck underneath. That tends to be a little difficult. So your two basic options for any strike, inside or outside. If it was a kick, go ahead and hold a kick out. Just a right front kick. He's kicking me in the groin. I've got two options. I can get the heck out of the way this way, or I can get the heck out of the way that way. But choose a side. So in this particular instance, the opponent is punching us. And we're going to assume that it's convenient to block on the inside of his arm, which means we've redirected his punch through our quadrant 2. One more time. So if I'm close enough to actually get hit, boom, with that punch, I need to shuffle back. A little push drag. I'm going to lift my back foot and scoot as I block his arm. And then it's delayed sword as usual. Cat and kick, boom, he bends over, falling with measure of gravity with a chop to the side of the neck. So the technique hasn't changed, but the way the defense what we're defending has changed just a little bit. You might start asking some what-if questions. Well, what if I don't want to block on the inside? What if I want to block on the outside? What you're doing is you're considering other techniques already in the system. Let's say he's in his neutral bow and he steps straight in with that punch again. You could say, what if I want to get to the outside of his arm? You can do that. You can block at the elbow. You can parry. You can try to get around behind him or beside him. Totally different technique, though, right? So we're going to systematically look at every possible way he can punch and we can dodge so that you have an idea of how to defend yourself. One thing I forgot to give a name to when we were talking about delayed sword is the stances that we're in relative to the opponent. So if the opponent's facing me in a left neutral bow, and I happen to be in a right neutral bow, we'll call this open stance because our midsections are kind of facing the same direction. If I happen to be facing the other way, if I happen to choose this stance, he's in a left neutral and I'm in a left neutral, we'll call this closed stance. And this is important to define because it allows us to eliminate unnecessary techniques, right? So again, for right now, just realize this is open stance. So there you have it for delayed sword.